the information given by staff.
It's correct, but there are new elements that you know, I understand parents' concerns and questions, and I think, you know, the only way that we move forward together is to receive feedback, have those conversations, and look at areas where maybe there are adjustments. Again, that's not something that trustees drive or approve, but the missing piece is the communication with parents. Unfortunately, the timing of this, there was a staff training session that happened at the end of June, at the end of the school year, and the intent is to have parent engagement sessions leading into the school year so that they can understand it. That is how we normally roll out any change in a system, is we start with staff, and then we work with the community to make sure that they understand, you know, any potential impacts for them. So that still is the plan, and I apologize to families, you know, to have this gap over the summer where you receive this information. That's not normally how we would share it out with the community. Like I said, it was leaked. That's fine. We're not hiding it, but you know, having this gap in time where the conversations aren't able to happen, or the questions and feedback haven't been addressed, I think is part of the challenge. So we completely respect that. You know, I've been gathering the questions and feedback, and intend to bring that to staff. And again, we hope to have sort of smaller, sort of local opportunities for smaller conversations, because I think the conversation piece is the important piece, right? Where we can have some dialogue about this, really understand the concerns, and in some cases maybe allay those concerns, or in other cases talk about, if you need accommodation for your child, this is what it looks like, or if you need to have a religious exemption for something, this is what it looks like. Although noting that's usually related to curriculum. This is just making sure that we're trying to create the most inclusive, supportive spaces for our students and staff in our system.
But realistically, when it comes to religion, there would be religious exemptions if you're talking about boys and girls, or, I mean, again.
Oh yeah, and like change rooms, washrooms, those are the types of things that we really need to think about. And if I could, you know, I didn't know that this was a topic that we were going to be talking about until just before the meeting. So I thought we were going to be talking about, you know, our ability to support capital projects like a new school in Waterdown, please.
Yes, and I'd love to do an update on that as well, because I've been lobbying hard. Well, my question about that, if we could even transition to that, because Graham and I had an opportunity, we kind of stumbled upon each other in an unintentional way, and I met a number of the parents who were pushing for that school, and I am pushing. I've already had a meeting with the Minister of Education, a meeting with the Treasury Board President about this, but from the board's perspective, I'll need them to make it a priority project. One of the big issues right now with the ministry is the cost, as you know, the escalating cost of building new schools. We could build 30 schools for the price of 15 today, and that's one of the reasons we've made. And we've had a number of parents who actually have worked with this, with these new modular kinds of schools that they're building. But I am pushing for that school, and I would like the board, you know, maybe we'll work hand in glove in making sure that it is a priority. I've already raised it.
And I think related to, you know, our infrastructure, one of the key pieces that I see, and I really want to just thank people for listening and for bringing forward their questions and concerns. I don't want to invalidate any of them, because trust me, I'm a parent too. As I'm going through, I'm thinking, okay, if my children were younger, how would I think and feel about this? And so I really do understand where people are coming from, and having their child, you know, front and center in their thinking. But one of the things that would be helpful is having funding that allows us to update our infrastructure to move away from washrooms that are shared spaces, or that don't have, you know, ceiling to floor stalls. Like we already know that we have some issues in washrooms. They are not supervised spaces for good reason, but that can lead to some challenges. And so, you know, being able to think about how schools are built differently, how schools can be, their infrastructure can be updated, that takes money, that takes some planning. But I think we have to start thinking about what that kind of infrastructure looks like to be more inclusive, and so that we aren't trying to create solutions with the old infrastructure that we've inherited.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, you have an envelope, and I can pull up the amount of money how much money did we actually forward to the board last year? If you could find that for me. It was a significant amount of money. It's up to the board to determine how they want to allocate those funds. And as I said, in terms of building new schools, we're looking at a more cost-effective approach with modular schools, so that when we do have to expand, it's much easier than bringing in portables. They can kind of piecemeal it, and the flow is better, and it's far more energy efficient as well, so less costly to operate. But the board still has to determine how that money flows, and there has been a significant amount of money that was allocated to the board. I'm seeing funding for more EAs. That was one of the big issues that was raised and Graham and I spoke about it. How does the board determine why one school gets EAs and another school doesn't? Again, perhaps we could have a conversation about that in our next meeting, and perhaps maybe that's what the result of this is let's have a further discussion about the policy or the procedure with policy 5.4, the new procedures, and perhaps even the allocation of funds and where the new schools are going to be. And because Waterdown, and actually my riding, is probably seeing the greatest growth in all of Hamilton, and so we do need more schools. Binbrook has already been, I think we're bringing 2 schools there and 1 in Upper Stony Creek. So, but when it comes to the EAs, that was an issue that was raised, and trying to figure out why some schools get more EAs than other. And Graham, you're more familiar with that whole story than I am, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, there's, I think really there's just some questions about allocation processes, whether or not, I have some questions about whether or not our allocations are strongly dependent on the funding that we have, rather than perhaps on the needs, which is also to be considered, but there's also the important difference in what is apparent need versus what the allocations are. And I'm not a professional, so those assessments are not for me to make necessarily, but I think it doesn't take a news article to see. But I'll pass it over again.
So Dawn, I think moving forward, if you could keep me in the loop, and perhaps we could send out another invitation to the parents and have a more another discussion before the school year, or perhaps just as we go ahead into the new school year, with addressing some of these concerns, and also you and I can perhaps even offline, if you could share with me what the board is really looking for in the next year, and especially in my riding. And I have, as I said, in an update, I will keep you posted on my conversations with both the Minister of Education and the Treasury Board President.
Absolutely, and we always welcome the opportunity to meet and have the conversations, right? And to talk about the questions. I don't have all of the answers, but I think it's important that we're gathering, and as you say, it's our role as well as yours to bring constituent concerns forward. So I do want to reassure parents that trustees are gathering that information. We are feeding it through to staff. It's that awkward time when a lot of people are on vacation, so it's hard to have that ongoing robust communication at our level with staff. But people are returning because we do have a lot more staff back for the last few weeks of August. So this is an ongoing conversation that we're having as well, and really looking for those opportunities for parents to have, and families to have conversations with the board, with their school. And I think it's a really helpful when those conversations happen in smaller settings at the school level, because that's where you can really understand what is it going to look like in this school, and what are the scenarios that we may encounter, and how might I be informed if X, Y, or Z is happening, or when would I not be informed, but I could maybe ask questions at home so that I'm making sure I've got open dialogue with my child. Just getting clarity on all of those things, and again, gathering that feedback to see, are there some areas where maybe the procedure is very rigid, and when we need to look at it being more flexible.
Perfect. I look forward to updating our listeners this morning and in a future meeting. And I want to thank Graham, Amanda, and Dawn for taking part in this. I know these are tough decisions, tough discussions, but I really appreciate you participating in this meeting, and all of the parents that joined us. And Dawn and I will be in touch and send invitations out for a future meeting, hopefully at the beginning of the school year. Thank you all, and have a safe summer.
Thanks, Dawn.
Take care. Bye-bye.